This regular session of the Wetzel County Schools is called the session. We will begin with a flag pledge by Mr. Castello and an invocation from Dr. Christian. Anyone not wishing to participate may stay seated.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for all the blessings you give us. We continue to ask for guidance as we lead our school system to better days ahead, and we continue to make decisions that promotes a fostering environment for learning. These things we ask in God's name. Amen.
And let it be known that Mrs. Nice was unable to be here tonight, so she will not be even by phone. So just these four of us. Okay, our first thing is a presentation by the Wetzel County Tech Center on Health Sciences, Jennifer Stillwagner and Whitney Healy.
Hi, my name is Ava Black. I'm a senior at Magnolia High School where I complete my core classes, and I'm also a captain on the girls soccer team. By the time I graduate, I'll have completed 20 college credit hours through my time there. Hi. I went to the Tech Center because I knew I wanted to go into a medical field, and my plans are to attend Fairmont State and become a labor and delivery NICU nurse.
That's great.
Hi, my name is Jessica White and I'm a senior at Valley High School. That is where I take my core classes and my college classes. When I graduate, I will have 27 college credit hours.
Thank you.
I chose to come out to the Tech Center because I wanted to be in the healthcare, so this was my way of deciding if healthcare was for me. My future plans are to attend Fairmont State University and become an RN to then later become a labor and delivery nurse.
Hi, my name is Alexis Williams. I go by Lexi. I chose to come out to the Tech Center because of the opportunities that it gave me and how many classes it opened. I was able to take art class again this year because I didn't get to last year. My plans after high school is I plan to attend Bethany College in the fall semester of 2023 for their pre-med program, and then after I finish that program, I plan to pursue into sports medicine.
Some of the courses that are offered through our program are med terms and medical math, which are both classes that can be taken to earn college credit. Foundations of Health Sciences are where we learn about things like ethics, safety, and laws. Advanced Principles is where we go more into depth on the body systems, and we have a project that goes along with each one of those, like the ones that are displayed in here and out on the table. We also have clinical experiences, and we practice in skills, which is what Jessica was talking about.
So skills, we start those our junior year, and those vary from vital signs and temperatures to EKGs, phlebotomy, and catheters. We get communication skills from those. We learn how to talk to our patients, we learn how to communicate with staff, gather information from the patients, maybe talk to the patient's family. We also learn how to give them the proper instructions on maybe how to clean their wound or take their medicine. It also gives us a good confidence boost on the skills that we'll be doing with our patients later on. We are a simulated workplace where your attendance is very important. You have to call off by either emailing your instructor or calling your instructor and telling them that you will not be there that day. We clock in and out, so you are held accountable for making sure you are there. We have 2 drug screenings your senior year that you have to pass to complete your CTE program. We have safety meetings every Monday to discuss topics that we could prevent an injury or maybe that an injury has occurred and that needs talked about. We have 5 Ps, which are prompt, polite, productive, prepared, and patient. Their meetings can vary between the setting that we're in, if we're in clinicals, or if we're in the lab, or if we're in the classroom. We have different job duties that change each week. We have a nurse manager, a human resources manager, and a safety manager. We have uniforms, which are scrubs, and on those scrubs we wear our name badges.
We have personal portfolios consist of the resume, cover letter, and letter of reference. These are offered at the beginning of the program, and we are able to edit them at any time throughout the 2 years that we do this program. And at any time we wish to, we can turn them into a future employer if needed. Our certifications that we receive out at the Tech Center are the Healthcare Provider CPR AED First Aid, Healthcare OSHA 10, HIPAA, Bloodborne Pathogens, and Stop the Bleed. Our main certification that we receive is our Patient Care Tech certification. We have a lot of career skills that we go through. We learn how to find a job, how to apply to that job, what to expect, like how to be prepared, what to wear, and respond to the following interview. Then we also have continuing education, which teaches us to keep our jobs continuing so that we can continue to grow. That was our personal portfolios. Then we have our business portfolio, and this is our name, which is Hearts to Hands, and then we have our logo, which is showed right up there on the PowerPoint. And here it has our rules and our job titles. The business portfolio consists of the house of all of our CTE documents for our stimulated workplace. We have the weekly safety meetings, which are every Monday, and the safety manager, whoever that is, because they rotate continuously, would pick a topic, and then we would all discuss on that topic on how to avoid injuries or what we could do to prevent them. And then we have our business and industry reports, which are completed 2 times a year by a various stakeholder. And then we have our 6S lab checks, which are to keep the lab neat and safe for everybody. Those 6 S's are sort, straighten, shine, standardize, sustain, and safety. And then we will hear from Ms. Yelly about her.
So like you said, I'm Mrs. Healy. The great thing the girls have through me at the Tech Center is beginning their junior year, they start work on their Trans English 12, which means at the beginning of their senior year, they do not have to enroll in any kind of senior English. This frees up a period for them to take college classes, which they'll talk a little bit about here in a little bit. It also can open up an elective for them, just giving them a lot more flexibility in their schedule. We continue that credit work throughout their senior year, and then they'll ultimately get their final grade through me beginning this semester. Each of these 3 will attest to the fact that this hybrid of learning English and health sciences simultaneously has really changed the way they've learned English and the health science curriculum, and it's really made them appreciate the connections between those things. One of them will actually speak more about exactly how the English content changes alongside the health sciences while still getting that credit. In addition to that, not exactly the same as embedded credit, but kind of similar to how an ornamental welding credit works. At the end of their 2-year program, they also get a science fulfillment, which means there's another science class that they don't have to take. It just shows up on their transcript. So each of these young ladies are going to tell you a little bit more about how embedded credit and the science fulfillment help them specifically, and we're going to start with Jessica.
Embedded credit opened up 2 class periods for me, so I can take independent studies where I take my additional college classes. Those college classes I get help in from the Tech Center because of the embedded credit teachers. Miss Healy helps me do my English, where I have to do my English discussions or correcting my English essays. Miss Snyder also helps us in the math with all of our math courses.
Like Jessica said, our embedded English credit and our science fulfillment opened up class periods starting our junior year when we didn't have to take a science class, and our senior year when we weren't required to take an English. This provided more flexibility and choice in our schedule, where we were allowed to take college classes if we wanted to. Another thing about the embedded credits is that the curriculum we learn isn't like what we would learn in our home school. Instead, the topics are based directly around healthcare.
The way the embedded credit opened up classes for me, like I stated in my introduction, it was able for me to take an art class, and I'm really fond of art and I like art, so I was able to take it my 9th and 10th grade year of high school, but I couldn't take it last year because I had to take all my core classes and none of those classes were opened up. With the embedded credit, I didn't have to take an English Healy stated. Miss Healy is really helpful with a lot of English that I do, and I ended up picking up another English class at my home school, and she's really helpful with me and my writing and helps me with grammar a lot. She also helps with my college math discussions and emails because, like I said, I'm really bad with grammar and I need a lot of help with structure, but she's always right there. There's also Miss Snyder, who is our math teacher out at Tech, and she is greatly helpful with our math and my college math because I have a lot of problems with fractions. But it also goes into the embedded credit. Ms. Healy really helps us with our research skills, and a lot of those skills that we have learned from being out there is to figure out what sources are credible and non-credible, to find the main points in our research project and how to cite and use citations correctly. We also learned how to use the APA format instead of the MLA because APA is mainly used in healthcare papers, and MLA is what we would use in our normal high school papers.
For test prep, we have one big test that we have to take as nursing students to get into any nursing program, which is the TEAS test. And we were given the TEAS test study packet. It was very intimidating. It was a very thick packet of all this information, very overwhelming. Ms. Healy and Ms. Snyder and Ms. Stoagner broke that packet down into each of the sections that we each needed help learning with. For example, Ms. Snyder broke down the math, and then she broke down the fraction section even a little more to give us the help that we needed in that section. The same with Ms. Healy, she helped us break down the English section and the sentence structures. She also helps us with our grammar a lot. The national math score was a 75.3 and mine was an 85.3, which is just an example of how the extra help benefited me in my test.
Early entrance are the college classes that you are allowed to take in high school through Northern and Pierpont. These classes are also provided throughout the summer the same way. Even though these classes are online, they give you a feel for how professors run their class versus how high school teachers would. And they give you a head start on classes that you were going to have to take regardless if you took them before or after graduation. Another thing is that all tuition for Wetzel County Tech students was paid for by the Clark Opportunity Foundation, along with our books that were paid for by Wetzel County Schools. Something else we do at the Tech Center is the instructors help us find scholarships that we are eligible for, and they aid us in completing the application along with any essays we're required to write, and they help us meet the submission deadlines.
Looking forward to the future of our health sciences program, we're working on a rebranding initiative, which will be known as the Healthcare College Prep Program. 100% of our past graduates scored well above the workforce entry level on their NOCTI test, which is a CTE standardized test. 75% of those students scored above the national average, and 100% of those students enrolled and was accepted into a post-secondary healthcare program. After seeing the interest in the post-secondary fields, with addition to the new advanced medical preparedness that our juniors are enrolled in, that the state rolled out this year, we were able to open the opportunity of offering college credits at the Tech Center. If the requirements are met, the juniors have the opportunity to take the medical terms and the medical math through Northern, and in addition, that creates an individualized college pathway for them by choosing classes of their interest during their senior year. The program allowed us to broaden the college prep initiative this year in order to challenge students passing through our program to higher education. Our hope is that Wetzel County counselors, parents, and students take the time to understand what we really offer in terms of college preparedness, the free college classes, assistance with the courses, applications, and scholarships. We're often referred to as a nursing program when in fact we're not a nursing program. We are a healthcare college prep program. This program is geared towards any student entering a medical field that wants to benefit from the knowledge base of healthcare and want an opportunity to get it jump-started with college credits for free.
Thank you for taking the time and learning about our program today. If you're ever free and would like to come tour our tech center, you can view our lab, and we would be more than happy to take your vitals. Now, the floor is open for questions, and you can play our operation game if you would like.
We'd have to do better than you, though. I just wanna say that I'm very impressed not only with what you're learning and what your teachers are helping with, but your presence to be able to stand up and speak to us like you did was amazing. I just wanna compliment you on that. And secondly, I think you three would be wonderful to talk to students in the younger grades about what you're doing and what it's like. You'd be able to share your knowledge with them. I think would help grow the program too if they heard somebody other than, teachers or board members talk about it. So thank you very much. Dr. Stender, you gonna go try that? Dr. Christian. And it's on tape too. Sorry, Dr. Christian.
Very nice presentation, you did an excellent job, so.
They really did. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
It's okay.
Can I get a picture of you all for you?
I got one, Mr. Clay.
Behind this table?
I did. I'll send it to you. She'll send it to you.
She'll send it to
Yeah.
me, okay. With the correct names, right? I'm just gonna pick that up tomorrow.
It's also nice to see former students up there. Okay, our next thing is delegations, and our first delegation is Elliot Kendall, WCEA, on the substitute staff shortage. Please remember that you have 5 minutes, speak to the board. We are not liable for anything you say, you would be, and we can't talk to you about your comments right away.
Ready?
We're ready.
Okay, I'll warn you ahead of time, my voice is about going. I'm not the loudest person most days, most of you know, but it's been one of those weeks. And it's Monday. Okay, good evening, folks. Been a while since I've done this, and my focus tonight, the reason for me being here and speaking to you, is we have a real problem in the county. If you haven't been aware of it, I'm sure you are. Of course, the problem I'm referring to is the shortage of substitutes and staffing vacancies. Okay, if you want a safe bet that tomorrow morning, principals and secretaries throughout the county will be making phone calls to try to fill vacancies. Recently it's a daily event in a lot of schools. Recently we had a day with 29 vacancies. We've had teachers, classes being combined repeatedly, including some phys ed classes with older kids and younger kids, which, it's an extreme measure to get coverage, but it's needed. Teachers are giving up planning periods and lunches. Specialists are unable to provide services because of providing coverage. And personally, I can tell you, I've rescheduled doctor's appointments. And you guys are aware that's not a good thing for me, but we didn't have a son. And my kids need that consistency. Okay, and I'm not the only person who's done this. No, I'm not. I thought I heard something. Okay, we're not the only county with this problem. It's a nationwide issue. Locally, we're competing with other counties, districts, and other jobs for a limited number of people. That's the reality we're facing. It's kind of started, but that's what we have. The county office has tried to recruit people through various means, but the problem remains. Okay, what we're suggesting, and I'm here as a representative, of course, is that you help them by giving them something to work with. Passing out applications and advertising are not enough anymore. We need to outcompete the competition and appear to be more attractive potential employees. Okay, and wouldn't be fair to come here without some suggestions. Okay, and I've got 4. The first one is create a culture of respect. One of the underlying causes of the shortages of educators is the lack of respect shown to educators and public education in general. While you can't say, do much on national or state level, you can do things here. For example, if negative comments are made about the schools, that merits a response. Visit the schools. Attend meetings countywide. Again, I'm watching my time there. So the other thing is try something different. Certain administrative staff are required to sub for 3 days. Some have gone over that. It'd be nice if they all did, because we're all in this together. Also, there's a bill for the Senate right now, 736, which I'm going to pass out to you, which would create pilot programs for 4-day school weeks. The information is all contained there. If I had more time, I'd tell you about it, but it's all right there in the bill. Okay, show stability. Continuous talk about consolidation is harmful. People don't want to work for some place that's going to be short term. I was faced with this decision when I started teaching. And it may actually end up having an effect on the levy. And that could be a whole different presentation, but the levy passed at 64.89%. There are 21 precincts, and 12 of them came in under that number. That's dangerously low. And time through, because I wanted to get to the big thing here. I'll come back and talk about that later. Pay them. If you pay them, they will come. A previous board made a priority to increase administrative salaries to attract administrators. It worked. There's a large gap between administrators and other salaries. Until the 21-22 school year, our county office had the highest average salary of any county office in the state. And there's not been a shortage. That's no longer the case, by the way. But there's not a shortage of administrative applicants. So if you pay them, they will come. We suggest doing the same thing for the non-administrative staff. Increasing the salaries of non-administrative staff and sub. I've got 13 seconds. So, I'm short on time, but this is not something you're going to solve in one meeting. So I ask that the board continue this discussion tonight and through other meetings. And
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Bonner, do you want these
Sure,
now or?
you can give them to us now, that'll be fine.
There's
Yeah.
somebody else.
I think that was enough. Thank you.
This is
Mr. Kendall, could we have one for Mrs. Nice? Level 2, thank you.
one more person. Questions? I'm not Thank you.
Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is superintendent's information.
I have nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. Next thing on it is superintendent's recommendation. We have the approval of minutes, personnel matters, professional personnel, service personnel, extracurricular, mentor teachers for 22-23 school year, reconfiguration for 23-24, and a leave of absence. Do I have a motion for approval of the superintendent's recommendation as under personnel matters?
No, wait a minute.
No, do I miss
Approval of
anything?
minutes first.
Oh, golly, I'm not doing well tonight, am I?
until after she made that motion.
Okay, so the minutes on February 10th and February 13th. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Caslow and seconded by Dr. Christian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now all those things that I just read to you, now we need a motion for approval of superintendent's recommendations as outlined under personnel matters. I'll move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second by Mr. Caslow. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next one, C, the ratification, superintendent's recommendation, we are removing that from the, agenda tonight. Okay, under routine matters are out-of-state trips, request to use school facilities, the contract for the optimal bus routing, time and attendance package, the electrical switchgear purchase, and request for proposal agreement. Before we make a motion, I would like to pull one of those out separately from the rest, and that's the contract for the optimal bus routing. Is any, I have to get a second for that?
What-
To vote on it separately? I move that we take that out. You'll have somebody that,
I'll second.
you'll second it, okay? It's been moved by me and seconded by Dr. Christian. We'll look at that one separately. Is there any other discussion before we vote?
I'd like to, Mrs. Wells' trip and, which would be, yeah, Mrs. Wells' trips and also the D, the discussion.
Okay, one second. Okay, I know where Mrs. Wells' trip is, and C, and what was the other one you wanted?
D,
Oh, D, I thought you said B, okay. The electrical switchgear purchase. Okay, so,
So you're going, so you're saying you're removing C, D, and the one request for trip to be voted on separately?
yes.
Okay.
okay, so the three that we did not pull out, do I have a motion to approve those three? Everything but those three?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Castello. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Glasscock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Everything except for those three passes unanimously. So let's go back and look at each of those ones now. First one is to the approval of request from Tammy Wells, superintendent, to attend the training on May 15th through 18th in Atlanta. Discussion?
I would just like to, say that I know that you're going to be retiring
I am.
and this is on May 15th and 18th. So, out of 3 weeks or 4 weeks after you come back, you'll be retiring.
Yes.
What would be the benefit of this to Webster County Schools?
The benefit would be, first off, national exposure for our county and for the process that we use for decision-making and coaching. And second off, that gives me 3 weeks to come back, and I meet weekly with my staff.
Okay.
And we're hoping that something that I give to this county will take, and maybe even after I leave, somebody will remember it. So,
Okay.
And I appreciate that you're continuing to work clear through
yes.
on everything, so I appreciate that. Go ahead, do you have a question?
This, never mind. I'm getting my dates confused because never mind. This
Okay.
is completely separate from the Florida trip and
Yes.
all this kind of
Oh,
stuff.
I'm not going to that.
No,
I'll be
you're not presenting at that.
No,
Is this
certainly not.
like a regional?
No, this is a national conference on coaching, educational coaching.
Okay.
Okay, so let's look at that, just that one item then. Do I have a motion to,
I move to approve.
okay, it's been moved by Mr. Castillo, I'll second it. It's been seconded by Mrs. Spawner. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, the next one is the contract for the optimal bus routing, time and attendance package. Yeah. I need a little more information, and that's why I'm asking this. I know at one time the bus drivers some were not happy that they had to stop in schools to check in and check out, or sign in or something like that. But will they still have to do that if this would be since this system would show where their bus is and when they finish and when they go, they wouldn't have to still,
Right, the GPS system would track them. It also has a parent portal where parents could log on and see where that bus is at. That would be effective as far as routes and trips. Anytime if a parent could see where their child was at any time on that bus.
I can add a couple things, the
Yes.
bus routing. For the most part, we're probably running the same routes. Would it be fair to say that we're not the most efficient in this county because of year-to-year changes and buses passing each other? It's not ideal, but it's a huge task to reroute buses. Is it fair to say we have a shortage in bus drivers?
Yes,
Yes, so if we can do something with bus routes,
make them more efficient.
make them more efficient, save us money that way. The way you do this, it's a GPS system, which we already have the GPS system on our buses. It's just expanding what this company offers. And let's also be honest, we're reimbursed at 92% of the cost in transportation by the State Department. So we're talking about 8% of this cost that we're gonna be paying to get this. To me, it's a no-brainer with what this can offer for us. And yes, the other piece that I'm real excited about is the time and attendance piece. We have not only our morning and afternoon runs, those run, it's salary jobs, there's not a problem with that. It's all the extra runs, all the trips that we run, it's the midday runs, which we have, we never stop.
Right.
And the special ed runs, and we're trying to be fair and consistent to our bus drivers and pay seat time on these buses. It's hard to do when some of these, frankly, the special ed runs aren't a standard run from day to day. So we're trying to, this year's been a problem because we've tried to standardize something that's not standard. If we went to this time and attendance process, which by the way, when you talk to this company and they see what we're doing, they're like, are you kidding me? You're still using paper forms? We're behind the times. And so there's a lot that this program can do. We're not looking at starting the time and attendance piece in July. We're talking about running it concurrently with what we're doing now and work out all the bugs, because I'm not looking forward to jumping in July and hoping it works. So this company is a well-established company in the nation, and
And I asked Mrs. Lloyd this afternoon, this is an add-on to what we already have. We already have the base program and have had it for how many years?
We've had the Samsara now for a couple of years.
Well, let me add one more thing that's really important. We have a substitute. Talk about what a substitute can do with this system.
Okay, so basically what this will have tablets on every bus. When a driver gets on, they'll put in their employee ID code, no matter what bus it is. So that way, that goes, as far as payroll, that would go to them. It also, once the bus is driven on a route, the software recognizes the stops. So if a substitute would get in that bus and logs into that route, it will tell them 0.2 of a mile you have 2 students, and so on, so they know exactly where they're going.
who would be the administrator of all this, setting it up, using it? Would it be you? Would it be Mrs. Fox? I mean, who would be?
It would be me.
Part of this cost is for the first year, bringing in
Yes.
basically tech support to help us with this. Mr. McPherson has also been part of these presentations, and he's gonna help with the implementation as well.
And what we've got now, the base program of this, that works well, right?
Yes.
That no problems.
Mr. McPherson and Amanda, they both have the app for the parent portal. They can tell you how that works. It works really well, I believe, right, Amanda?
Yes. Yes, I was kind of a guinea pig for that when we were first looking at this, and it was great. I could set what they call geofences on the exact locations. When my child's bus would hit a certain spot, I would get a notification on my phone, which would then give me time to walk out around the building to the door to greet her.
And any parent's gonna have,
And this will be, yes, this will be
Yes.
for any parent.
we'll have that capability.
Yes. Right. So this is like during trips in the evening too?
Yes.
If there's a parent
Anytime.
falls on,
Yes,
who needs to pick their kid up at Valley,
yes.
they'll know how close
Yes.
they are.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Are there,
Go ahead.
are there any other counties around here that have been using this part of it?
Ohio County, I believe, has it, Wood County has just implemented it, recently. Those are the ones I know of.
There's
Marshall
more, I
County
can't
is
remember.
looking into it.
Well, it's
Berkeley, I
just
think,
sometimes
is
when there's a
something.
new program,
Right,
you know, this is really glitzy and has a lot of nice stuff on it, but when you
Right.
talk to somebody who's actually used it, I mean, I'd sort of
Right.
like to talk to somebody that's already
And
used
it
it.
interfaces, hopefully, with Weavis 2.0, right?
They've done that already, and I will say, having talked to their folks who are
Right.
my folks, I'm not concerned about anything.
Right, that's what I mean, since
Yeah.
that's what we're using now, if
Yes,
anybody had a concern.
they have data feeds set up somewhere else. We're not the guinea pig on that, which makes me enormously happy.
And you said 92%'s.
We're reimbursed at 92% because of the size of our county and
Okay.
there's different levels.
And
But
Because
we
I
won't get it
noticed
for a
they-
couple years.
I noticed when I was reading through a lot of this, like, you know, it said you could use ESSER funds, but we've used our ESSER funds.
That every vendor in the world has figured
And
out.
that's what I
how
thought,
to
when I read
work.
that, I thought, that's why that's in there, so don't
I
get people
quickly
looking
shut
for
them
that.
down and say, our money's gone.
So when you said something about pay, the help to pay the bus drivers, is that what you said?
It would go, the ideal thing is to get away from the paper tracking and bus drivers having to fill out all the paperwork and then having to go through all the process. It will track that for us and it'll get routed directly to payroll. In a perfect world, it'll get input into, right into our payroll system. I'm more expecting it'll get into an Excel spreadsheet for us to enter the timesheet from that, but yes, that it'll measure actual seat time.
It's gonna be more efficient than having them.
Much.
I move to approve the acquisition of the EduLog GPS, et cetera.
It's been moved by Mr. Castello, is there a second? Seconded by Dr. Christian, any other discussion? My only other concern was, have the bus drivers been fully explained so that they'll understand what it's gonna be, and, I mean, are we at that point yet?
We're not at that
not
point.
at that point now.
Cause we didn't know
Right.
it was gonna be purchased. Correct?
It's been moved by Mr. Castello and seconded by Dr. Christian to
I would
approve.
like to make a motion.
Well, we already have a motion on the floor.
Well,
Do you wanna discuss something that we can
Yeah.
still discuss?
I think that I think before we raise something like this, I think all the bus drivers should be made aware of something like this and see their input.
So, it's been moved by Mr. Castello, seconded by Dr. Christian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
I'm gonna say nay, not that I don't want the program, I'd like to make it so the motion doesn't carry. I'd like to table it and put it on the next agenda so that more input can be given by the bus drivers. To me, I'll be honest, to me, I think it sounds wonderful. I think it'll make it easier, I think it'll work out, but I don't think waiting one more board meeting that won't slow us down too much in getting it. Am I correct?
So what do we need to do?
I think we need to, you know, of course you may meet with your bus drivers, but I think we need to talk to some people too and see their viewpoints.
I think maybe the misconception that the bus drivers, maybe they have spoken with you, is that they think we're gonna take something away from them. That is not the idea. I think they feel that if they say they go on a trip, they're only gonna get paid for the time they are driving. They're still on the clock while they're there.
Absolutely.
We're not taking nothing away from them. It's gonna be the same, it's just gonna be through the computer system.
It can work, it'll also calculate overtime properly, you know,
Yes.
it'll, anything over 40 hours driven is required to be paid overtime. This system will do that. We have a antiquated system for that here.
Right.
Sometimes that probably benefits the drivers, sometimes it probably hurts the drivers. These special ed runs, we tried to be fair this year and go on the high end. But if a route takes longer than what we've got on that standardized rate, we're gonna pay them their seat time with this new system.
Right.
I mean, it's,
And when he says seat time, I think
Right.
that's where the confusion comes in. We're still gonna pay them when they pick those students up until they get home, because obviously that is their time, and they need to be compensated for that. It's just not gonna be while they're driving.
thank you for that. No, I don't mean seat time just while they're
Right,
driving, because
yes, I think
clearly, if
that's
they're
a
on a trip
misconception.
somewhere, they're still on the clock, the system will still register that. It's when
Right.
they clock in and when they clock out, the same way they write that time sheet, write down on their time sheet, it'll be the same exact way. There's not a big change to that. I'm trying to think if there was one other thing I wanted to say.
Actually, it'll be beneficial for drivers that do routes, shuttles, and trips,
Because they'll hit overtime.
they're gonna get on overtime a lot quicker.
Right. But, and the clear thing is, your morning and afternoon run, we look at that as a salary job. We're not trying to keep track of.
No.
Now, I don't know how that's our plan.
Right.
Is the morning and afternoon run, you're scheduled to make this run, this is your salary. That's not a timesheet entry for us. That's, here's how much you get paid on a D scale and so many years' experience. But it's the extra runs, and there are bukus of them,
Yes, there is.
that we're trying to get better hold of.
Yes.
And
Okay.
move into the next century.
And like I said, I didn't vote against it because of the program, I think it sounds excellent, but I wanna make sure that everybody is heard, so that we know what we can weigh back and forth. So the first motion did not carry, because it was 2-2. Then I don't know if I moved or not to table this, or do we
You
put it
did.
back on?
It'll be on the next agenda.
It'll be on the next agenda.
Yes.
And do we have to have a second to that, to put it on the next agenda? Just put it on the next agenda, that'll give us time to check into the concerns that people have. Because I have received some concerns, and so I feel like I need to address those. Okay, next one, electrical switchgear purchase. Approval for the purchase of the electrical switchgear for the new bus garage project in Wetzel County Tech Center from Schneider Electric in the amount of $158,799.05. Okay, discussion on that?
We need a motion to discuss it, or?
You can discuss
No,
this.
it
later.
was already
Yes.
moved to be discussed, voted separately.
Well, here we're adding $158,000 to a bus garage that we haven't even approved to build yet. It's going out for bids, we haven't approved it. I would say that we should table that till after the bids want to come in and see if we actually want to build this thing.
Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I just wanna know what it is.
That's a good question. Let's go to Jamie on that, and let's talk about why we're wanting to order it now.
We're upgrading not only for the bus garage, but the tech centers. It's basically all your breaker boxes, your main switch gear for the building. They're upgrading the tech center as well as the bus garage. The point of doing a pre-purchase is every day we wait is every day longer it's going to be. So if we wait until this goes out for bid in March, they open bids end of March, award the job in April, and then we decide to order this. As of today, we're a 220-day lead time to get the electrical switchgear. Every day longer we wait, so if we wait until April, now the building will be done, and we're gonna sit another 4 months waiting to get electric put into it if we don't pre-purchase. Same thing we did with all the HVAC equipment at Short Line, same thing we did with the HVAC equipment at Payne City Elementary. Lead times are horrible. So this quote that they sent us up, we got 3 bids, this was the cheapest one through Snyder, which is Square D. They told us right up front, the day they give us a bid, you're at 220 days, every day longer, it's just gonna keep escalating the lead time to get the switchgear. So, I mean, you put it off, that's fine, but, you know, you're gonna end up having a building, if you do pass the building, you're gonna have a building built. The tech center is going to be running off a temporary electric service while we're waiting for a switchgear to show up, but, you know, the way things went before, we pre-purchased in January for the HVAC at Payne City, was supposed to be a 6-month lead time, we were supposed to get it in July, and it didn't show up until November. So, if we, you know, order this in April, and they say 220 days, and then, you know, we're 400 days, and now we're, basically, we're running off extension cords across the roof tray cable, running the tech center on a temporary service if we decide to build the building. It's just, trying to look ahead to get ahead of the game, so we're not just sitting and stalled out on waiting on equipment.
And Mr., to add to that, your point, Mr. Glasscock, is correct. If we purchase this, I guess we could decide not to do this bus garage, and we still need a switchgear, but it's gonna be more than we need, and it'll be a sunk cost. You're right, there are 2 votes tonight that pertain to the bus garage. None of them is actually committing a contractor to the project. This would be a big step towards we're doing a bus garage. I no if ands, that's, we're assuming it's going to go through, and this is part of what we need, since it's over $100,000, we need permission from the board to make this purchase.
Now, even if we do purchase it, and you guys decide not to do the bus garage, the majority of that switchgear is still going to be installed in the tech center regardless, because it's upgrading the electrical service in the tech center as well. So basically, if you don't build the bus garage, all of the extra electrical panels that were purchased in with this that go in the bus garage wouldn't be used, but the majority of the main switchgear can be installed to the tech center regardless whether we build a bus garage or not.
The second item that's gonna have that vote that I mentioned earlier will be, transferring the budget that we've talked about twice now, tonight will be the 3rd time. And it would be transferring budget into those line items that we've talked about that you have in front of you. And that includes putting a substantial amount of money into the bus garage so we can do this project with cash. Again, it's just a budget, doesn't commit it, but we've been talking for a while now about hitting that deadline, and this is one that we're told that we're there. We need to start moving forward.
Okay, you said the majority of the electrical system would be used even if we didn't build the bus garage. How much?
I'd have to get the exact bid. What we're changing is upstairs of the tech center right now is the 1600 amp main switchgear that controls every electrical panel inside the tech center. To do the garage, we were planning on having it connected to the tech center's electric, so when the electric goes off, the backup generator will still run the bus garage. So basically, there's 2 main switch gears that's upstairs that will go away, and they will be put downstairs by the generator, which control the tech center, all of their electric. You're probably going to have maybe, I'd have to look at the papers, 3 or 4 just other distribution panels that would actually be in the tech, or in the bus garage for HVAC, for all the electrical stuff. It'd just be your smaller sub panels. But the main switch gear, it'll be installed regardless of whether we build a bus garage or not. Because the switch gear that's in the tech center now is from 1977, 1978. It's got a Pringle switch in it, which most of you don't know what a Pringle switch is, but when you push the button to trip it out, you can sit there all day long and hold your breath because it's not tripping out.
And one more thing, I keep going back to this, but this isn't an additional cost to the budget. It's built into the budget. The plan would be for us to make the purchase and then that be transferred over to whoever the contractor is. We're getting it started, we need a purchase order to get it started, we need approval to get it started. But our plan would be to roll that over if we approve the vendor, to whoever wins the bid, to do the bus garage into their project. If for some reason we don't do the bus garage, we can keep our purchase order and
Still purchase it, we'll just have to get an extra contract for, if the bus garage doesn't go through, for the contractor and the power company to come revamp the tech center's electric.
I move for the approval for the purchase of the electrical switchgear for the new bus garage project and the tech center from Schneider Electric for $158,799.05. Is there a second to that motion?
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Bonner and seconded by Mr. Glasscock. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimously passes. Okay, so now we're down to the treasurer's report.
So before I get into what I need action on, I did put in front of you a proposed budget calendar for this year, something I do every year. And you really just have, there's one required date, and then there are other dates that we just kind of work backwards from. You need to have certain things done by a certain time. The one required date is April 18th. It's the 3rd Tuesday in April. We are required to have a meeting to officially enter levy rates. We've done that different ways over the years. We've had 8 o'clock meetings with 3 of the 5 board meetings, and it's over in 5 minutes. But what we've done the past few years is we have just moved a meeting around to make that a regular meeting date, if that works out for people. So my proposal here would be to do that and to move the April 24th meeting, not have that meeting, just move it up a week and have it on the 3rd Tuesday, which is April 18th. That takes care of our requirement. The other dates on there are a regular meeting. I do have a special budget work session on April 28th. I have 9 a.m. If people can't do that, it changes from time to time, but somebody doesn't like 9 a.m. But we've done that, if that's a possibility, that we can do that on a what day is that of the week is that?
Friday.
Friday, I think we did that this evening. So if we can do that at 9 a.m., that's what we'll do. If not, we can do it at any time around there some evening. But this is my proposed calendar, and then the final, you'd have to have a public hearing on May 8th, which would be our regular session, and then May 22nd would be your adopting of the final budget. That doesn't require action. If that's okay with everybody, we'll move forward with that. If not, we have time to change that down the road. I have several items for you, budget supplements and transfers. The first page is a budget transfer. This is what we've been talking about for a while. We have already set aside some funds into contingency based on what our carryover balance was. We put that money in contingency. Now is the time to actually move it towards areas of expenditure. One of those items that's on here is that edgelog that was put on hold. We can still make this budget transfer. We won't make the purchase. It'll just have the money sitting in the budget. And then if it's not approved, we can move that money around later to another line item. But this does include everything that we've talked about. You have the attachment with you for those items. If this gets approved, all of those items, other than the ones we can't do, the over 100,000, we'll start on those tomorrow. There are a few things on there this basically gives us approval to move forward with these items that we're talking about. We're not going to start doing the work, but we'll get our purchase orders issued.
You're talking about the colored section, right? The shaded section?
I'm talking about that. Some of those have already been in process. Those are things we had to do. I'm talking about the top of the second page. You know, the poster printers, the carpet and tile needs. We've set aside some money there. We won't do that work till this summer, but we'll get a head start on that. The all-ed roof, the refinishing of the gym floors. We'll get, again, they're not going to be done during season, but it's going to be scheduled. So they fill up quickly. There's a few things on there. The Martinsville School cafeteria window project. These things we've talked about before. But of course, you know, the major item is down at the bottom of the first page, which is setting aside money for that bus garage. Again, at some point we're going to have to commit, but this is just moving the budget. It's not necessarily saying we're going to spend the money, but it is setting the money there that we could move at another time. I guess the official action, I'd love to have official action that says we're doing it or we're not doing it, because this is, we have a lot of costs that keep growing. You know, architecture costs, core samples that we've already done. Engineering. And it's a $6 million bus fleet that we have. I mean, it's a project. But anyway, tonight, that's the one item is the budget transfer, moving it from the contingency line item into those areas of expenditure. The other item, if you look at, and that is a negative number. I hate bringing a negative budget supplement, but this is a decrease in our budget of about $4.5 million. Some of that is really, if you look on that transfer page, there is a carryover already budgeted in May. That was $4,064,038.68. That's the majority of what we're talking about here. That is the carryover that we've already said we can't touch. We needed it to balance this year's budget. I want you to remember that when we have our budget work session. Basically, this current year that we're in, I know there's all kinds of wants and needs in this county. This current year that we are in, we did not have enough revenue to do everything that we are currently doing. So in order to balance the budget, which I'm required to do, I have to find another revenue source, or we gotta make $4 million in cuts. We decided to find another revenue source, and that was, we knew we'd have a healthy carryover for several reasons. We took $4 million off the top. We're not moving that anywhere. We're leaving that alone. From our carryover was actually $10 million, but we already said $4 million of it was committed. So right now, this is just reducing that budget by what we've already said. I can't budget it twice, basically. That's the first line item. The second one is a Title V reduction. That's a rural and low income grant. I believe it funded Peyton City Elementary Schools position there, like a reading interventionist. And we're still funding that position, but we did not qualify for those Title V funds this year. So I have to reduce the budget, roll that over into county, and the county's got to pick up those costs this year. There's a little $300 grant for our Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Ritz. So she gets money from the state to help with her supplies for her classroom. There is a substitute reimbursement for Craig Mason of $343.62. Sometimes they'll take our employee somewhere and they'll pay for our substitute, the state. There's a Title IV reduction, it's just a little bit of money, $554.25. Basically, it's just what they said we were going to get, we're not going to get. So I have to reduce the grant there. And the last one, I know it's another confusing one, but there is something that's just a flow through. It's not really extra money. Unfunded retirement allocation. So basically, people in that old retirement system, or people hired up to a certain date, there's a cost to that that's not in salary. It's health insurance that they can extend. There's a cost to that I have to report. It's a flow through. I don't get to see the money, our bank doesn't get to see the money, but the state sends it on our behalf to cover some of those costs. So that's all we're looking at here is the difference in what the original projection was versus what it actually is. A lot of things on the list, but
We'll have that each year for a while because of people
It is.
retiring still, but then it'll be,
it is decreasing,
yeah, it should decrease.
yes, because the newer employees don't have the same
Unfortunately, they don't,
benefits.
yeah.
Yes. That's all that I have.
I move for the approval of transfers and increases in budget. Is there a second? No second?
Second, because we have to spend the money on something, so.
Okay, it's been moved by, is there any, it's been moved by me and seconded by Mr. Castelo. Do we have any further discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I still can't get my head around 3.7 for a bus garage, and I see a list of things that we continue to put off. I mean, I don't know how bus garages got to the top of the list. That's where I'm at with this.
My comment is, I was for it, and then after I went out there and toured all of it, I was 100% for it. That was what I could say.
But the thing about it is, you know, you remodel that place, because if you take, you know, the contract in the construction area, if the pipe blows out in the gas company, you don't replace from A to B, you replace that section. And there's no reason why that's bus garage out there can't be where the red iron is, to be cut off, re-welded. That's why the good Lord made welders. And put new sheeting on it. I mean, we're talking a lot of money here.
One thing you gotta realize too, is the minute you start a renovation project on that old bus garage, it no longer grandfathers from 1978. So the minute you start to remodel, regardless, you're putting a new service in for a sprinkler system, you're putting fire alarm systems in, so you're gonna eat a ton of money, whether you build a new one or you remodel an old one. And you know, you either build a new one or you put a couple $100,000 into an old one, and you still have an old one with an old skeleton. I mean, but you'll have to bring it up to the new codes.
The drains aren't real good either, are they? So that would be the
To
board.
remodel that one and actually make it the way that it needs to be, you're basically gonna tear that down to just a steel structure, fix the steel structure, pull all the concrete out, put all new drains, new floors, so basically you're gonna build a new bus garage inside an old Scout. I mean, that's what you're gonna end up doing. To bring it up to code with sprinkler systems, fire alarms, HVACs, you're basically gonna build a new bus garage inside an old train. That's basically what you're gonna end up doing.
I'm very familiar with that. But $300,000 is a lot better than 3 million or 4 million.
Oh, y'all
Five
might have
million.
200,000 in remodel.
And let's be clear on, I don't want it to come back down the road that we thought this bus garage was gonna be $3 or $4 million. That is not the case. The former board has set aside $3.6 million already. So we're going off of all the estimates, which includes retaining walls and concrete and turning radiuses and sewage plants, and so this would get the project up to an estimated cost. And yes, it's a lot of money, more than any of us think it should be. But I'm not, just like you asked what a switchgear was, I don't know the cost of building a bus garage, that's why we pay people.
And I'm not saying it's not a need, I just don't have it as the need. I mean, my son practiced basketball tonight in Magnolia around a trash can collecting water. It's been going on for years. That's a need. We don't have HVAC in any high school. That's a need. We kick that can down the road for year after year after year. At what point does it become the need? I mean, why suddenly the bus garage? Why is it now number one?
Well,
That's my question, and I know it's bad.
It's been like that for a couple of years, it's not just this year it got brought up, this has been something
Well,
in
the gyms
discussion.
have been like this for a
But
couple decades.
April 28th is the work session for the budget for this coming year, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there will be still more money that we're gonna budget for some other things.
You know, it's not and it's a tough, this sort of thing is very difficult on me because I'm trying to move us forward and that's why a vote is gonna have to be, in this case, normally I can gauge what a board wants to do. Right now, we're one board member short, but I've done this for years. We've had HVAC in the gyms on the agenda, not on the agenda, on discussion for years. You're absolutely correct. But at some point along the line, there came a priority list. And there are other needs that we have that aren't on here. I mean, you see the list. There's a roof at Short Line that needs replaced.
And I don't think your carpet and tiling numbers anywhere close to what we probably need to spend.
You don't think what?
Well, I mean, we got 105,000 for carpet and tile. I don't think that begins
Absolutely
to
it's
touch
not.
it. I mean, I think we need to spend more.
Absolutely, it's not. So at some point along the line, a former board has made the bus garage a priority to the point where we've set aside funds. And so board members change, you have the right to make that change. I don't make the decision on whether or not a bus garage is gonna be built or not. That's the luxury I have in my job. But I know the process, I will defend the process that got us where we are. I think that's a fair process. But I can't make it any cheaper unless you want to take a bus wash bay out of that bus garage. If you wanna take a storage bay out of that bus garage, if you wanna take a meeting room out, there are things that we've already rehashed to try and make this work. Or not build it all together.
And if
then-
we do that, then there are gonna be consequences to the tech center
Right.
and then the ability of us to expand
Yes.
the career center.
I feel like I'm here defending the bus garage, that's not my job to defend
Right.
the bus garage. I'm defending the process that got us here. And frankly, if we don't approve this budget transfer, then all of our money will be still in contingency, it's not going away. It's just we can't spend any of it I won't spend any of it until I have a clear direction.
And you did say we have a $6 million fleet,
We have a $6 million
one of the
fleet.
newest fleets in the state of West
Yes.
Virginia. The bus garage is the hub for very safely transporting all of our students who ride the buses to and from our buildings, and get them home safely in the evenings, and these bus drivers and these buses take us to numerous co and extracurricular activities. So that's something too that we need to consider, is that it's a safety issue as well.
And the leak in the gym, I don't know, but I've been told different things that it's
It's a ridge vent, and until they decide what they're gonna do and take the ridge vent out, the minute we take the ridge vent out, then they're gonna complain it gets even hotter, cause you have nowhere for the hot air in the roof to escape from, so. We had the State Department come in and look at everything, and they were more than pleased with all of our schools when they did their inspection there 2 weeks ago. But it's just one of those things that depending on how the wind blows, and you look at it, and you can see the vents open up in the wind, depending on how it hits that dome roof, it blows right through those vents, so. I mean, we can tear the ridge vent off of it and seal it off, which is gonna solve that problem, but you're taking out ventilation that you gotta have.
Point is, we can remodel this previous bus garage out there a lot cheaper, bring it up to date, and still be the safety of our kids. The repairs on the buses and what have you. A lot cheaper, and we can build a $4 million bus garage. And we can use this money for air conditioning or whatever we decide we need to do ahead of time. That's my opinion. So as you know, as I'm sitting here talking how I'm going to vote, so either now or 10 years from now, it's the way it's gonna be.
Any further discussion? Okay, there's a motion on the floor. The motion is approval for the transfer and increases in budget. It was moved by me and seconded by Mr. Castello. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No,
Okay, there is not a, it's not pass, it does not pass at this time.
What about the budget supplement?
You want us to separate this out?
I think you need to supplement, or separate those out, or else you're disproving everything else. The only thing that pertains to the bus garage is the transfer. The budget
Okay.
supplement are just routine things that need to happen.
Okay.
Where's that?
It's the one that doesn't have
Yeah, I
that.
It says
understand that, but
supplement.
where's that?
What you'll have to do is this motion, this original motion will die, for lack of majority.
That's what I was-
And then you'll make a new motion then to approve the
Budget supplement.
budget
Budget
supplement
supplement.
separately.
Okay, I move that we approve the budget supplement. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by me and seconded by Dr. Christian to approve the budget supplement. Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Did you say aye?
Abstain.
Unanimously then.
Abstain.
Oh, abstain. Okay, so we have 3 ayes and 1 abstain, so that it does still pass.
Which really turns into a yes.
Okay. Number 6. First and second reading of revised deleted Wetzel County policies. Mr. Barkis, do you wanna say anything about this before we vote on them? I know most of them are second reading and revised.
Right, not unless you have a specific question, no.
Anybody have a question for me on any of the policies? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the second reading and first readings of the revised and deleted Wetzel County policies?
So moved.
It's been moved by Dr. Christian. Second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, board discussions. Now. Okay, so I received a letter that I don't know if anybody else did or not, so I brought it with me about discussion of the substitute and staff shortage. And this person sent me 5 concerns. I'm just gonna go over them. First concern is that when a sub is called and arrives at the school, they should not be transferred to a different position unless they agree. Some subs that are having that happen will not take jobs at that school again, and so they might hurt it some. The second thing was, all teachers in the entire county should have a substitute folder for the sub that has the class list, bell schedule. Some teachers have said they won't sub in certain classrooms again because they had no information. Okay, third thing, a principal should make an effort to see the substitute and thank them for coming in for that day, and to tell them if there's a problem to inform the principal or the office. You wanna make them feel welcome so they'll return. 4 is county office staff needs to sub when it's needed. They need to be aware of what teachers and principals deal with on a daily basis. Teachers hired by the county for special jobs should also be available to assist. For example, teachers that may not have a classroom of their own but go into other ones could be teaching some of the programs and substituting. And the last one was, some retired teachers who are willing to sub on a limited basis or at limited schools have been removed from the list for not subbing enough, and we should be glad they're willing to sub at all. So, if there's any other comments or questions anybody has on that? I mean, that gives us some ideas there. And, of course, since this is on here for discussion, we got the information that Mr. Kendall also shared with us.
Right.
So if anybody has any comments on any of that. It's a scary problem. It really is.
It is, and if I may, it is one that we have been addressing in our staff meetings. In fact, for a long time now, we've been addressing it. We've been using the design thinking process, and I really appreciate WVEA's, of which I'm a member. Not too many superintendents are members of the association. I am a member of WVEA, and I appreciate the fact that they've given us some more solutions for success than we, in fact, have thought of. But I would like to go over some of the things that we have thought of in our meetings and the things that we're working on. You know, our motivation is to properly staff our facilities with qualified personnel. I mean, that has to be our first, because our students are our users, and they're the most important commodity that we have, and we have to make sure that we properly staff our facilities with those people. We want our kids to achieve their goals and their desires for their maximum potential, and we totally are aware that with the present situation with subs in this county and with any county in our area and nationwide, in fact, that we are not reaching the maximum potential for our students that we could if we would have enough substitutes, if we would have enough fully certified teachers in positions. It's not lost on any of us. You know, we're not living in a world where we have these rose-colored glasses and that we don't understand that. We definitely know that, and it's concerning for us all. You know, my girls go to school in Mon County, and they have the same problem going on in Montague County right now as well, and it's alarming and it's upsetting. When all of our schools are properly staffed and we are not scrambling for subs or having to double up classrooms, and we don't have teachers that are having to use their planning periods. Of course, we're paying them for that, but still, my goodness, if you're a teacher, those of us that have been a teacher, that 45 minutes can be a lifesaver. It can be the difference between a good lesson and an excellent lesson. It can be the difference between good mental health and not having good mental health. And we know when mama ain't happy, ain't no one happy, and we want our teachers happy in the classroom. So we definitely get that. We was mentioned the county office should be subbing, and we have. And the state law says that we have to give 3 days, and we have. And I think we have one person who's not given a total of 3 days. They're very close to that, and we understand that. Would we like to be out in the classrooms more than 3 days? Yes, we would. However, we do have jobs as well, and important things that are taxing for us, and requirements from the state that we have to do as well. We do have one person who has done over 3 days. And am I saying that we will not be doing over 3 days as the school year goes on? Absolutely not. We may have to. However, we are following the state law, and we are honoring the jobs that we have as well. And it's not easy for anyone. Certainly not easy for those that are in the schools and people trying to get staffing filled for their kids. If we want optimum growth from our students and retention of quality staff, we're going to have to solve this problem. It's going to have to be statewide, but all we can control as county office administrators and as a collective county office staff that's all we can control is us and how we choose to operate from that. What we have done so far is we have worked through and we have Tina, I don't know if you've noticed on social media that the postings are now being regularly posted on our social media. Thank you to Tina Bates for that. People who are applying for jobs now, and I agree with WVEA, we do need to be kinder and more accommodating and more welcoming. And because of that, Mr. McPherson has now, anytime anybody applies for a job, Mr. McPherson developed a form that goes out immediately to that person saying, thank you for your interest in Wetzel County Schools, because quite frankly, we had people calling me saying, and calling different people here saying, we don't know if our application was received. We have no clue if it went through. No one has said, hide your hair to us. So Mr. McPherson developed this. It is going out. He worked with Mrs. Velez to make sure that that goes out to every person. Not only thanks them, it also lists the benefits that we give to be a Wetzel County employee, so they'll have more food for thought as they're still entertaining this idea and waiting to hear from us if they choose to bid on a job. So thank you to Ben and Mrs. Velez and to Mrs. Bates for those. Amanda and I met with WTRF marketing executive Nick Healy to begin a television and streaming media campaign. This campaign will involve the efforts of 100 High School. He's actually going to work with them. They're going to bring in their professionals and work with the student ambassadors of the media group there at 100 High School to do TV and streaming media campaign that for not only the benefits of working in Wetzel County Schools, but also the successes that our students have had in branding our county and hoping to attract quality applicants to our county, as well as let the community know in the Upper Ohio Valley and not Upper Ohio Valley, the Ohio Valley and in North Central West Virginia. A partner station for WTRF is WBOY. They work Next Star, I believe it's called. It used to be West Virginia Media, and so they're going to be working together. Very, very well-priced campaign for the bang for the buck that we're hoping to get. And the idea that the 100 high school students will be doing this, and with the direction of professionals in the field, and they'll be getting more experience. So I'd like to thank Mrs. McPherson for her help on that, and Mr. Healy, of course. Mr. Houston is working on the Grow Your Own initiative with plans to implement this in our county for the next school year. Mr. Houston, I don't know if you had planned on talking about that at all this evening, but if not, we can do it at the next meeting and talk about Grow Your Own and go from there, because that's huge for us.
I can give you more detail next meeting.
Right.
The students have been completing a survey to give us information of who was interested, what schools they're from. I still have a few schools still submitting information.
Okay. This is a design thinking process, and anytime you do that, you have to level with yourself, you have to assess your situation, you have to identify your needs, you have to designate goals, specify objectives, leverage learning, identify what does and what does not work, determine your next steps, and you have to execute. And once you execute, you get the results. And then guess what? It all starts again. So it's very nice to have this summary from WVEA, to have Mr. Kendall's thoughts on this, so that when we start this process, which is every day, we start again, we can add some of these and look into the ability of us to address some of the solutions that the WVEA and that the letter that you received, some of those, will they all get implemented to the liking of every person at the level that they would like for it to happen? Probably not, but it would be wrong of us not to at least try one or two of these and address these solutions and try to, piece by piece, make progress for Wetzel County. It's a terrible situation we're in, and one that I never dreamt when I was principal. I always had coverage, and that was a valley. Who wanted to come to Valley? And everyone, we were covered, and we were out in the boonies, and people came, and it was wonderful.
I would like to say that for next school year, of course, I realize you will have left us.
Yes.
And so will Mr. Cook. That we make sure that we don't send out a letter to substitutes that say you should be substituting 40% of the calls you get.
We're not in that. We can't do that now. That's right. We just
that
can't.
cannot. I mean,
No.
because even if you get, because I know a lot of the retired teachers, and we get together often, they just said, that really was offensive to them.
Right.
And they just said, fine, I won't sub at all. And even if you only sub once a week or once a month even, that's one classroom that got covered that wouldn't have been.
Exactly.
And I think we might be able to pull some more of the retirees back in.
I agree. We're not in a situation where we can be sending out letters like that. Yeah.
Would you like this?
Yeah,
copy? So it has
great,
all
that'd
the
be
ideas
wonderful,
on
it would
it?
help us, for sure.
Okay. Any other discussion on the substitute staff shortage? Okay, now let's move on to the next one, continuing ed at Wetzel County Tech. And is that this paper?
So information was requested about year 13. Year 13 doesn't exist. There's no such animal as year 13. There is year 14 and year 18. Year 14 and 18 are both in place county by county. Year 14 is thought of as a second year of a 2-year program. So an example would be a student who comes out to Wetzel Tech. All 3 of our programs have a 2-year component to them. If they were to start as a senior, then that would be how year 14 would go into place that following year to complete that program. It's for non-completed courses, so West Virginia students are not allowed to repeat a course they've already passed. And it does mix in the high school students with the students who had graduated the previous year. Year 18, and you hear this in CTE a lot as well, this is the Advanced Career Education, or ACE program. Once again, county by county, it's a standalone curriculum. It doesn't go along with the curriculum that we currently follow. It's adult only, no high school students involved in that program, and that is something that's offered in the evenings. Tuition's charged, it's a whole different ballgame, although it's under that same umbrella. So hopefully that provides some clarification on 13, 14, and 18.
Let's go back to 13.
Okay?
Explain to me why that you can't graduate and then come back the following year to get other certifications, and explain why I'm asking this. When I went to Valley High School, we had auto mechanics there. There was a gentleman there that graduated from high school, came back to, the very next year and the following year.
So, yes.
And was there 2 years at auto mechanics, went on to be a mechanic. I know this guy personally, worked at a garage for 25, 30 years and retired from that garage. And if he hadn't been there and got those 2 years of extra certification, he probably wouldn't have got that job. So why can't we do it now?
Because the State Department says no.
Yeah.
Quite simple.
Because we used to
but
do that, you're right.
It used to
Not
be.
too long ago we
Yes,
did
and it
that.
wasn't that long ago that was still an option. But that has
I
since
mean, in
been.
essence, what you're asking is for year 18.
Do what now?
I guess I think what you're asking for is year 18.
Would be the evening, yeah.
I mean, in essence.
Right.
Okay.
So that's why, and I think most of us in this room have thrown around that year 13 at some point, because it was so recent that it was an option. But it's within the last few years that the State Department has done away with year 13 and then redefined 14 and 18.
Why do they call that 18? Why do they call it year 18?
I've
Have no idea.
I've no idea.
Okay.
Why does the State Department do things
Because they added
Why
4 years.
why does the State Department do the things they do?
Okay.
I mean,
So year 13 is really, just to clarify my stupidity, so year 13 would be the next year after the person has graduated from high school.
That's what it used to be.
But I mean, that's what it means on here. That's why we don't have it. It's void, right?
I believe that the year 13 terminology is null and void. And they took the ideas behind that year 13
Okay,
and made 14 and 18.
okay.
Yeah, because if you're in the second year of a program, say you started your senior year in a particular program, and then you needed the next year, that's your year 14. And you would come back and be in a high school class with high school students, but you would be graduated yet still in that class, so that's year 14. But that's for someone who has already completed year 1.
year 18 would be for the person who wants to start a new program.
Right, I understand that.
Okay.
So is it year 14 because counting kindergarten through 12th grade is 13 years?
I
and
have
that's
no
year
idea.
14?
I have no idea.
I think Mr.
I think they needed to get rid of the 13 because it was used so much.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's like, hotels aren't built with 13 floors anymore. I think.
I think Mr. Houston might have been right, this State Department
Oh,
just
my.
comes up.
Yes,
Okay,
so
let's-
I think
oh,
I
wow.
think they just did away with the name.
Well,
Number
and
13.
there is a lot of federal funding that is
Yes.
attached to this. It may not just be totally State
Right.
Department issue. There's a lot of federal funding attached to it and a lot of regulations and that sort of thing, so we have to keep that.
And then we
If a
can get
student-
into,
But if a student finishes their first year as a senior, right? And they have to do the second year, they can go right back the next year as you for 14?
that is what year 14 is in place
Okay.
as.
And we permit that here.
We do not have that currently. We have no
We,
students in that
we
situation.
could though.
Oh, yeah,
It's
Okay.
possible.
it's possible.
That's what, it's possible, I mean,
Okay.
okay, we don't have that structure in place right now though. And year 18 would be a whole different ballgame because it'd be after school and you'd have,
All adults, yeah.
That would be your evening classes. That's a different pot of money. Federally, and we can get into that whole discussion. I tried to leave all the federal dollars out of this part of the
well, yeah,
discussion.
that's why, I mean,
But yes, that
that's a
is
whole
definitely,
different,
yes, whole different animal.
evening classes is a whole different animal.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Some tech centers have them, but, you're also gonna have to be able to find,
An administrator, you have to have
The evening administrator, teacher, all of those things.
custodian. So do we have any, so with the exception of somebody that starts their senior year, their year 12, that would be the only way that they would be able to go to 14, right?
If they were to begin a 2-year program,
Right.
Yes, and they did.
and that is what was required for graduation, is my
Right, and
understanding.
then we'd have to put the wheels in motion to make this happen, cause we don't have the wheels in motion
Oh, we
right now.
most definitely would have to. We couldn't just jump into it, right?
Right, that's what I
Yeah.
mean, it would be a matter of organization and all kind of stuff.
What
Okay.
would the cost for us to try to do something like that? Do we have any idea?
I have no idea. We'd have to look into that. Mrs. McPherson, you don't have any idea, do you? Mr. Houston, any clue? We'd have to look into that.
Shouldn't be, I mean, they would just be fitting in with the current students that are there, so we're not talking about a whole new instructor or anything like that, right?
Mm-mm. We're not, you're right.
Right.
Mhm.
But it would be putting the pieces in place and everything like that.
I think it's something we need to look at. And see if we can possibly get this in motion.
Which part? 14, 18, all
Well,
the above?
I guess maybe 14,
14?
because of anything that we can do to benefit the kids in this county, I'm all for it.
I think the issue is there's nobody in the boat right now who needs year 14. Everybody's completed their 2 years. We don't have, I imagine if we had somebody who had started their senior year, we would probably look at it, but that's not applying to anybody right now.
Well, and that's what.
Everybody's finished in 2 years, everybody started as a junior.
We don't have
Right,
that
that's what I'm saying, we
situation.
don't have anybody
Right.
that fits the criteria,
Yeah.
right, at this point and everything.
Anything else, any questions? Any other questions?
Nothing good, but
Just have to think about it.
just something we need to think about down the road, okay.
Okay, board member committee reports, anything with mob time?
We had a meeting the other day, they're wrapping up their year, they're plugging right along with their programs and everything.
Anything, any other committees? I have two things, one with policy, we did finish the first of the 3 sections of the policy for personnel, so we'll be working on that middle section now. My hopes are that we're done the whole thing by the end of this school year, but we'll see.
I think we will be, that's my hopes
That's what I'm
as well.
saying, I'm hoping, I
Yeah.
think it'll be close, but I'm really hoping that we are, cause we've been
I'm
doing
gonna
this for a
discuss a
long
little
time.
more when it gets to my turn, but
Okay,
I agree with you,
and then we won't have that committee.
that's the hope,
Yeah, yeah, we didn't think we'd have it this
and then
long.
we'll all celebrate,
Yes, we do.
because it's been long and tedious.
Yes, it has. The other thing is the Superintendent Search Advisory Committee will be meeting on Tuesday, March 7th. We're all included in that at 4:15 for about an hour. And there will be representatives on that committee from the associations, from each of the LSICs, from each of the communities, a representative from the administrators, service personnel. I mean, it's,
Which, the seventh?
yeah, that's Tuesday.
We're gonna send out
A reminder? Here's the reminder, we're having a meeting on Tuesday, March 7th, at 4:15.
We're up for 50 years and gave kids reminders all the time, so
Yeah.
hopefully somebody
I will
can give
do-
us
I
reminders.
will remind you, I will do that. Any other committee reports?
I also left them lesson plans every time too.
Yeah, I did too. Okay, so other items, the discussion of policy 2322.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll begin with Mrs. McPherson. Okay, so Child Nutrition World, as you saw, the request for proposal agreement, that is a monumental task, and I am quite happy that that is now done, over with, and approved for next year, so thank you for that. Also, I've been working on and actually submitted today, the West Virginia Department of Agriculture survey for donated foods, Department of Defense foods. It's getting harder and harder to plan this out with our current food storage locations at the center. So this is something that I'll be looking into in the future, looking for more storage space, cooler, freezer, it's more the freezer space that will be needed. And this is also something that when Mr. Doty was talking about this replacement going on, if that freezer goes down, fun times. Speaking of machines going down, we had a cooler issue at New Martinsville School, and thank you for your work on getting those parts replaced and installed and all of that. And we're still having issues procuring parts. We do have equipment that is still down across the county. I've talked to other counties, and they're having the same issues. So short of figuring out how exactly to make these parts ourselves, it's a waiting game, and it's frustrating, and I understand. So, there we go, thank you.
Mrs. McPherson, I'd like to reiterate what the board said about how fantastic the presentation was from your students this evening.
I will make sure they hear that, I'm
Yes.
also proud of them.
Excellent, I am too. Mr. Houston.
ESL testing has been completed. Tomorrow is
What's
goal-
ESL?
English language students. And tomorrow, students, 8th grade students in Wilson County will be taking Golden Horseshoe. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Stanford.
I gave you the results in your packets of the iReady, benchmark 2, where you can compare, you can really look at it and see the different schools and the grade levels and where we've increased and we haven't. But mostly overall, we've increased, countywide, we increased in math, 16%, we increased in all areas, geometry being the lowest. In reading, we increased 15% countywide, and informational text was the lowest there. Long Drain increased 13% in math and 16% in reading. New Martinsville was the highest with an increase of 21% in math and 20% in reading. Payton City Elementary was 16% up in math and 12% up in reading. Short Lawn was 17% up in math and 14% up in reading. So overall, I think it was a good increase.
I think something, I took a lot of time and went through all these, I like data, but one thing that I noticed in vast majority of the schools, that not only did we go up on the ones going and working on grade level, but the number of students that were 2 to 3 years below grade level, that amount of students dropped, which was good to see that. There are still a couple numbers that really concern me, but at least we're moving forward.
Yes.
Would that be considered a recovery to some extent from the pandemic, or negating some of the effects of it?
I'd say it's darn good teaching.
Well, I mean, but they're back in.
Yeah, but they're back in school.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
we're not.
I'm sure it has
Yeah.
something to do with it.
Mrs. Lloyd.
I have nothing done.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Doty.
The switchgear, back to the switchgear, Payton City Elementary School finally got changed 2 weeks ago without any major issues. Same issue, it was supposed to have been here in September and then got pushed back to December. December and then got pushed back to February. So they did that over a weekend. We didn't have any major issues with that. The last of the electric panels for that project is being installed on the stage now, so that'll be taken care of. As for the discussion I had with the State Department when they came in 2 weeks ago Friday. They called us on a Wednesday morning, I think, and said that they were gonna come on Friday, so I didn't really inform anybody. I don't know if anybody knew about it when they came into the schools or not, but I figured, why tell anybody so they can't hide anything? When they came in, they graded us on basically 4 areas: cleanliness, maintenance, roof conditions, and building age. Cleanliness and maintenance both, we came in at or above standard, or above the standards for most schools around the state. We were at or above average. Roof conditions, they just put us, they didn't say above average, we're just at the half-life. We're at the point now that we're at the half-life of all the roofs, so same thing, we finish short line. Once short line is done, then we just start the process all over again and start hitting every school again. And they just put on there, they looked at the facility age of the schools, and that's the only thing they put. They just said with the age of our buildings, we were at or below standard, and they said that's just typical with everything in the state because everybody's got, 45-year-old buildings. But other than that, they were really impressed with, they pulled air samples at all the schools. Everything came back good for that while we were there. But he was, I don't want to say ecstatic, but he said we did really well for them just to show up out of the blue. And in his little letter here, he said same thing, that, he gave us such a short notice that there was no time that anybody could have done any surprise cleanings or whatever. So, but yeah, they were rather impressed and give us a thumbs up.
And we will make sure that a letter is forwarded to Mrs. Bonner tomorrow.
Yeah.
And she can get out to the board members then.
Can we have how long is the report,
How long is the
actual report?
Right there, that's it.
2 little pages? That's
You'll
all
get
of it.
We'll get a copy of it.
You'll get a copy of it. Mrs. Bonner will get it to you.
Yeah. The only thing
All I
that
was
we found
gonna ask
issue,
for.
the only thing that they had, I don't wanna call it an issue, but they saw some stained ceiling tile at Magnolia High School where the bad units actually are being replaced, all last week. They were working in the evening where the units went down, stained the ceiling tile, and the tiles have never been replaced until the units were. Other than that, he addresses that in there and saw that we told him right there on the spot that what was going on, and they were fine with it. They looked at the gym. They were looking at the gym roof because I guess they got calls saying that the gym roof was horrible, and they inspected the floor, and then I showed him the ridge vent on how it blows through, and he was kind of in the same boat. He wondered why the ridge vent was actually there. It was kind of a weird design, but he said until you decide to tear the ridge vent out, he said you're just gonna have to kind of babysit it and figure out, just trial and error to see how you can get the louvers to when the wind blows up over the dome, it doesn't open the louvers up and let the rain blow in, and it's always the same spot.
That was.
Center court. It's same spot every time, it's center court.
That was the design in the late 1950s. If
Yep.
you go to the front door, 1959, that's when the thing was designed.
Yeah.
And you have replaced those ceiling tiles. A lot of
Yes,
them,
the
correct?
custodians were actually instructed while we were there. I mean, he was standing there when I talked to the principals and the custodians, and they're in the process of doing all that. We actually did go into the boys' locker room. Boys' locker room has been destroyed 5 of the last 7 years. They don't really go in and check the locker room, so we went in, I brought all my guys in, and we went in 2 days. We redid the ceilings in the boys' locker room. The only thing we have left to do, I'm waiting on the moisture-resistant tile to do the shower room and the bathroom right off of the shower room, but we replaced all the ceilings. I told the principal that they need to instruct their coaches and the gym teachers that they need to walk through that locker room before and after every class, because if they don't, I give it 2 weeks and it'll be destroyed again. We found, I don't know if they told you, we found 1 pack of Juul vapes up in the ceiling, a round ball of liquid vape stuff in the ceiling, and a whole laptop.
Well, the last time we were up there was when we put the vape detectors in, and it was redone then. That's been less than a year.
Yeah.
So, because we
But
recorded
what it
the building.
is the old locker room was in the original gym, and when we did the new school, they had to get piping, they had to get ductwork, they had to get vents. They tore out the old plaster, dropped the pipes below the ceiling, which caused the drop ceiling to be dropped down to just shy of 8 feet. So you go in there, they spray pop on the ceiling, they throw their shoes through the ceiling, they jump up and grab the grid and rip the grid out.
Not acceptable.
Yeah.
Been
So-
addressed with the principal, I have the text
Yeah.
messages here back and forth. He assures me that he is on it, and he also thanks you and your gentleman for coming over and working, for that. It was gross,
Yeah.
absolutely
I
gross.
said 5 out of the last 7, that's what I told Ray himself, I said if they don't address the situation, in about 2 weeks, it'll be destroyed again.
So, and you say you've had to go over how many times in the past 5?
I'd say 5 times in the last 7 years
Okay.
we went in there, and then it just seemed, like I said, we redo it, and within 2 to 3 weeks, they just destroy it. They just spray pop everywhere, they bust tiles, it's just, nobody goes in after a class to see what's tore up, and then all of a sudden, it's tore up, and then now it's just a blame game of who did what, and
Right, exactly. And I will say that Mr. Rotino himself broke out the big floor scrubber and did some work himself over the weekend. And I have it on his word that he will take care of that. But I do want to thank you and your
I
gentleman.
mentioned it to the one coach, or not the coach, but the one gym teacher, and he said he was going to, and
Excellent.
then the other one was off, so nobody addressed it with him unless Mr. Rotino did, so. but-
Will. Would you name the gentleman who helped you with that? Because really,
It was my guy, my maintenance guy from New Martinsville, Dan Witchy, and then we actually had Mark Lloyd come in, our inventory guy,
exactly.
pulled off of, some of the stuff he was supposed to be doing to help us get in there and get it done.
Right. So we appreciate that because it took him off other projects. So thank you very much. Okay. Mr. McPherson.
I'm gonna add, Mrs. Wells, listed all of the things that we had talked about as the county staff to, help with staff shortages on top of the other things. We collect, I'm gonna say about 95%, I guess I don't know for sure, but we've collected closer to 10,000 and further away from it of our job bids are online. So we do collect email addresses with that, and they've always gotten a, yes, we received your bid, but we did change it, and it is that nice letter now, and interestingly enough, someone responded to it after they got it and
Very
asked some more questions, so a little bit of dialogue there. And since we're collecting email addresses with Mrs. Velez's help, we've curated a list of people who've applied for jobs who we haven't hired, and anytime we post jobs, we're going to reach out to them again every time, and it includes our benefits, and then it also includes a link to where you can apply and how to get a hold of personnel if you have any questions. So we're hoping, I think I've boiled it down to about a minute a week for me, give or take, and if a minute a week, and we get 1 or 2 more employees, probably worth our time. And then I'm happy to say that anytime I've subbed, I've always been met with plans in the room when I walked in, and they're usually that morning decisions, so it's not like somebody planted plans so that Ben would say this. There've been plans every time I've gone into a room, so people, I think overall, probably take care of that pretty well. I never had any trouble where I walked into a classroom and there weren't plans.
I could say when I subbed in between retiring and now, that probably 98%, 99% of the time it did. I did go into some that didn't, and I
That
would
was
go back
rare.
to those rooms, but it was very rare,
But you always remember that time,
yes.
so I understand. But now, every time I've been in, someone's left me adequate stuff for me to get through the day, including schedules and everything. I didn't have to go hunt anything down, so.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Vargas.
Some policy talk here real quick. So tonight, what we passed was all of the first group of Section G, including, the first group of Section G, and there was 2 policies that were part of that first group as well. So those are in the second reading next time. But we didn't want to hold the rest of those policies up, which is why they were grouped that way. Mr. Cook, Mr. Lancaster, and myself have been working on the second group for the last few weeks here solid. We started well before that, but the last few weeks real solid here with the attorney. My hope is I'll have those completed in the next week or so. So not the first board meeting of March, but I should have the first reading of that group on the second board meeting of March is my plan, which means the first board meeting of April, we'll knock that group out, the second group of Section G. And then that'll leave about the last 20 or 25 of the whole policy manual overhaul, and that'll be complete. So that'll give us a couple more months by June 30th. So it'll be tight, but hopefully the goal is to knock it out by the end of the school year. I can go more than that, but that's the gist. So I'm good with that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Vargas. Mr. Lancaster?
Nothing else this evening?
Okay.
All right, then,
I had one question.
yes,
When the coolers went down, how much food did we lose?
So the date and time of the next regular meeting is March 13th at 6:30 PM. Do I have a motion for adjournment? A motion for adjournment. Do we have a second? Been moved by Mrs. Farmer and seconded by Dr. Christian. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. We are